Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bob Beaton, coming to you from Port Huron Northern High School, where we have a very exciting drafting program going on. This program started a couple years ago, and the unique part about it is that it is operated from 5 until 7:30, 2 days a week. And this allows the students who normally have a full schedule to take this course, and it fits in with our career pathways very, very nicely. I have with me this evening Mr. Hal Langoff, who is the drafting teacher, and he also teaches at Port Huron High School. Good evening.
Hi, Bob.
Hal, could you tell us a little bit about the program that you're operating here?
Yes, this is a combination beginning drafting 1-2 and drafting 3-4 class. As you can see, we have some students on my left working on computers, and on the right over here we have a student working on a drafting board and another student on a computer back there. This program has been going at Northern for just 2 years. It's an after-school program. Our students are taking full schedules during the day. This is a 7th class or a 6th class, as the case may be. It is beginning drafting, and right now we're working on orthographic drawings. We're in the CAD program AutoCAD AutoSketch, and we're also working on drafting boards using the standard drafting tools that have been around since the 1800s. So we're on the verge of a high-tech class, and yet we still have some of the real basic rudiments of mechanical drawing in here.
Hal, we're going to be interviewing some of these students in just a moment, but could you tell us a little bit about what they're working on at this point in time?
Students in here right now are working on elementary orthographic projection, which is a one-dimensional overview of, in this case, basically rectangular solids. Tonight they're working with dimensioning. They're solving problems that are actual machine products from industry today, and they're solving them in the language of industry, which is used worldwide.
Well, in just a few moments after we interview these students, we've got another spectacular situation that's going to happen here in just a few moments. Tell us a little bit about the bridge building and the competition.
This is the first year that Port Huron Northern has been involved in the Ferris State Spaghetti Bridge Building Competition. It's a 4-part competition where students actually have 4 projects to do. They've been working on those for about 4 weeks. In 2 weeks we'll be going over to Ferris State University, where we'll be competing with 25 other schools from all over the state of Michigan. In the 4-part competition, students will be, 1, researching a classic bridge from anywhere in the world. This year's Northern's bridge is the Singma Bridge from Hong Kong, just moving out to a little island off of Hong Kong. The students are actually constructing a model of that bridge out of pasta. They can use any kind of glue they want, but strictly pasta. They also are writing a 12-page research paper on that, where they've studied the bridge from its conception to its actual use. The students are also preparing a 6-minute speech on the bridge, and the pitch on the bridge, even though this bridge has been completed, the students are, the angle is that the bridge hasn't been completed, and they in fact have to sell it to the residents of Hong Kong as something that's viable, that they actually need there. So that's 2 parts, a 12-page research paper, a speech on it, and then they have to construct a model out of pasta. That's the 3rd part. All of that competition will be judged on Friday, March 8th up at Ferris. The judges are the deans of the engineering and architectural programs at Ferris, so they really get a good look at their work. And then the 4th part, and we're going to see that in a few minutes, we actually have a 2-hour competition where the students are given 2 pounds of spaghetti and some glue guns, and they have to construct a bridge that covers a span 2 feet. And then at the end of the 2 hours, all of the bridges from all of the schools will be tested, and he who builds the strongest bridge will be the winner. And in a few minutes we'll take you over and show you some kids working on a project just like that.
Well, I'm very intrigued with this because, Hal, you mentioned some very important things from an instructional perspective, and a few years ago we used to talk about it being integrated. The new term is contextual, but you talk about some reading, you're talking about some speaking, you're talking about some social studies and understanding about Hong Kong, you're talking about doing the writing up of the paper, and then you're talking about going and applying what you've learned. And math is an extremely important part of that, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Math is a big part of that. Geography is a big part of that. English is a big part of that. The use of the internet and technology is certainly a big part of that. Research papers now in the high school have changed dramatically. This particular paper that the kids are working on, I've seen 3 drafts of it now in the last couple of weeks, is about 10 pages long right now, and much of the research is on the internet. 10 years ago, you couldn't have found the resources that we have out there right now. And with a room like this, with the technology we have in the high schools today, research is just, it's out of everybody's expectations.
Well, in just a moment, we're going to visit and talk with some of these students and let them tell you about some of the work they're doing. We have with us this young lady who's working on some of the elementary drafting tools. And could you tell us your name and a little bit about what you're doing?
I'm Jennifer Cote, and I'm doing a 3-view drawing on the board in half scale.
And how did you hear about the drafting class, and how did you get involved in it?
They made announcements over the PTA, and I just decided I wanted to do it, so I signed up.
All right, Mr. Langhoff, could you tell us a little bit about, from an instructor's perspective, what this young lady is doing?
Well, Jen is working with real elementary drafting tools. She has T-squares and triangles and an architect's scale and a metric scale and compasses and all the basic tools of a beginning drafting program. And if you were to look at drafting 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, you would see a lot of high schools and colleges that were still focused mainly on a board like this. We still use the boards. We find that our students that are moving on to local colleges and community colleges need to have background on the board as well as background on the computer. So in the beginning class, in the drafting one, we spend about 45% of our time on the boards learning the basic skills of measurement and orthographics and dimensioning and pictorial and those kinds of things. And then the rest of our time pretty much focuses on computers, which we'll show you in a few minutes. Jen's working on a fairly complicated problem. The problem sheet that she has here has problems both in metric and in decimal inches, and she has worked with fractions and decimals and millimeters throughout the course, and is really doing a pretty fine job on this project. The drawing she's working on now is just about done. She's on the 3rd view, and she's been working just, maybe about 10 or 15 minutes, and she's doing a real nice job on that. What else do you want to know about, Mr. Bean?
Well, it was curious to me that you talked about going from the drafting board with what we might refer to as the manual tools and then moving on to the computers. And I can remember an advisory committee we had some years ago that they were just death against that, but the way technology is going, you can see how the use of these materials and tools is diminishing, and getting the students onto the computers really seems to be a fascinating part of it, and they learn much faster.
I would say it's a little different ball game. You have twice as much to learn now. In the old days, once you mastered the skills on the board, you were there, and it was just a matter of gaining skill and practice. But now you have not only all the tools and the technology with the boards, but also the software. And it just seems like every year we're adding new software. Our computers are getting faster. The memory's much better. But we've really asked the kids to learn twice as much, and in some cases 3 times as much. And that's worth thinking about. Not only can you draw mechanically, but now you can draw on the computer. And we're asking them to learn both of those skills simultaneously at the same time. So it's a big change.
Hal never misses an opportunity to get in a little advertisement here about faster computers. So I caught that, Hal. I want you to know that. Well, let's move over and look at some of the other students that are in the class and see what they're doing.
Okay, great.
And now we're going to visit with Mr. Langhoff and some of his students to let you see firsthand what they've learned and are doing in this class. Mr. Langhoff, can you take it from here and talk to these students with us?
Thanks, Mr. Beeden. Todd over here is working on a text problem. It's a 3-view problem, and he's working in metric, as it turns out, and we had a little problem a minute ago with the diameters of the holes, but Todd's already corrected that. Tell him what the problem was with the size of those holes a minute ago.
I drew them in a radius instead of diameter, and they're drill holes, so all drill bits are done in diameters.
How easy is it to, let's say we wanted to double the size of those holes, how easy would that be to do? Could you show us how fast you can do that?
Yeah.
You know, the big change in technology here is we saw Jen Cote a few minutes ago, and she had mechanical tools out. If she had wanted to make those circles that he just put in there in, you know, a couple of seconds. In the old days, that was a compass, that was an architect's scale, or a metric scale in this case. That was a measurement problem. You had to locate that center and away you go. On the computer, you know, way faster. The technology makes it a much easier operation. Todd's been working on this particular problem just a few minutes. He's got the top view all ready to go, and he's ready to move on to the next one. Todd, what grade are you?
I'm in 11th grade.
And Todd, how did you find out about drafting?
I was interested in it, and I wanted to do it for a career maybe, so I came and saw what it was like.
Great. And Todd, what career area are you leaning to right now?
Probably architecture, if anything.
Okay, that'll be fantastic. In fact, in about 2 weeks, this particular class will be leaving mechanical drawing, where we've spent approximately 19 weeks of our school year, and we'll be moving into an architectural mode. We'll actually be changing software. We'll be going to a program called 3D Home Design. They'll actually be designing a house, a floor plan, elevations. It's incredible what can be done in short order. So actually, they'll be leaving this piece of software, and they'll be learning a new piece of software. Some of the students in here have already taken a look at that software and have already started to manage it on their own, which is kind of interesting. John, over here, I see you're working on a one-view drawing. It's an orthographic. Any idea why we're doing that as a one-view drawing as opposed to a three that the others are working on right now?
The one-view drawing is a little bit more easy to read when you're laying out something.
Okay, that's pretty good. John, what grade are you in this year?
I'm a junior.
John's a junior here, and how did you find out about drafting at Portland Northern?
I saw it as an option for a class, and I thought I'd give it a try.
Okay, and how many classes are you taking during the day before you get here at night?
6.
6. So this is a 7th class for John. I'm pretty impressed with these students because this is an add-on class. We didn't start until 5 o'clock tonight. These folks did a full day. They got here. What time do you guys start in the morning here? 7:37 this morning they started. They went till 2:15. Some of them went home. Some of them were involved in sports. Some are involved in sports. We got one kid that's not here tonight who's a hockey player. He's at practice right now, and somehow they fit it in. A couple of our students are also dual enrolled students going to college, high school, and night school because they're really into the drafting. What's your career area, John? What are you going into?
I'm going to architecture.
Another architect. So they're going to be really excited about that section as we move on. And Tom's got really a teeny tiny one on there right now. It's kind of neat. Tell me about that title block on there that's showing up in the lower right-hand corner. Where did that come from?
We design our own title blocks at the start of the class in case for some reason we want to start our own company or whatever. It's just something kind of fun to do and makes our work individualized.
Do me a favor and just blow that title block up for us real quick just so they can take a look at what you did there. We'll get that on the screen. Again, one of the advantages of the computer, you can have a pre-designed title block. In the old days, it was draw that title block on the board every time, or it was go out and pay to have that title block copied onto paper so that you could use it over and over. Now, a student can design his own title block or her own title block, and then it's just a matter of bringing it and putting it around the drawing they're currently working on. They can use it over and over again, and it just takes seconds. And got a pretty interesting design there for your company logo. What was the company name on that one?
Commerce Drafting Incorporated.
Okay, that's really, really neat. This drawing, how long have you worked on that drawing?
This drawing took me about 20 minutes.
It's about 20 minutes on the board. In the old days, a beginning drafting student, you know, I hate to keep going back to it, but it would probably have been 45, 50 minutes. And we really cut that time down with the computer, so that's really spectacular. And what are you working in, metric or in decimal?
Metric.
He's doing a metric problem again. So again, you can see the math. Tom, I asked you a minute ago, or I asked the other guys where they're headed for college. What are you thinking about in terms of what's your career area?
I was looking at possibly going to MSU or the Citadel in South Carolina.
And what would you be studying there? What's your career field?
Possibly engineering or medicine or possibly even teaching, strangely enough.
Well, outstanding. If you looked at engineering, have you thought about any special areas in engineering at all?
Not really, but definitely not machining, probably an architecture thing.
Maybe like civil engineering or something along those lines, or surveying engineering. You know, there's so many technical fields out there besides, you know, and I always love that question with high school kids, you know, what engineering field are you looking at? There are hundreds of engineering fields out there: paper technology, mechanical, electrical, computers, aeronautical, nuclear, and it goes on and on. And a lot of these kids now with the computer can literally go on the websites right here at Northern and go to every college in America. Everybody has a website, and they can get right in there and they can get answers to their questions. Let's move over here and take a look at another student. And now we're with Sarah. Sarah, what grade are you in this year?
I'm a senior this year.
And what got you into the drafting program this year?
Mrs. French was telling me about it, and I wanted to be an architect.
Ah, another architect. And Mrs. French is one of the counselors here at Northern and told you about this program, and you came in here, and away you go. That's fantastic. And where are you thinking about going to school next year?
I'm going to SC4 next year, but then from there, after my 2 years, I want to switch to Tennessee State University.
Fantastic. 2 years at SC4 and then on to Tennessee State. That's outstanding. Again, she's done a nice job on this. She has the 3 views all laid out. She's finishing off her last couple of lines in the right side view, and she'll be dimensioning it in a few minutes. And again, it's a classic on the computer technology. It's just so much quicker than the board work that we were doing years ago. Thanks, Sarah. Now we're with Jesse Califf, who is, again, working on an orthographic problem. Jesse, tell us what grade you're in and how you got into drafting.
I'm in 10th grade. I got into drawing when I saw the option on the electives for the scheduling.
And what's your career goal right now? What are you headed into?
I plan on being an architect.
An architect, excellent. You can kind of see a pattern evolving here. The kind of kids that are moving into this area are interested in things like engineering and architecture, but we also have a lot of kids that come in here who are interested in construction and building trades and tool and die making and graphic arts, and there are an awful lot of career areas that tie in here. Let's turn it over to Bob Beeden for a minute, and we'll talk about crunching some bridges here.
Thank you, Mr. Langolf. I was talking to some of these students earlier about the relationship between math and drafting, and could you tell us a little bit about how you feel about math now that you've had a little bit of drafting?
I feel a little more confident now when I'm graphing in my math classes.
Kind of has greater meaning to you now because you're applying it and you're using it, and so now it makes a lot more sense. Yeah. All right, thank you very much. Well, Mr. Langolf, let's go crunch those bridges that we talked about.
Excellent.
Mr. Langolf, we're going to go crunch some bridges here, and we've got 4 students that are with us this evening, and let's get them to introduce themselves.
I'm Sarah Alquist,
And what grade?
12th.
I'm Mike Rigney, and I'm in 11th grade.
I'm Zach Thompson, and I'm 11th grade.
I'm Rachel Somerville, and I'm in 10th grade.
Mr. Langolf, we're delighted to see so many young ladies involved in this, too. I think we must have 5 or 6 in this class, and that's a wonderful thing. Well, we're talking about crunching or busting up some bridges here. I understand you're going into competition.
Absolutely. This is Northern's first crack at the state championships, and actually for about one day last week we had equaled the state record. And what are we talking about state records here, Sarah? What is this all about here? What are we building here tonight?
We're building a bridge out of spaghetti and hot glue, and the state record last year was 22 pounds, and we're trying to beat that so we can be number 1.
Last week, you built your second bridge with spaghetti and hot glue, and it carried 22 pounds. That would have won the state championship last year. That record held for one whole day. A team at Port Huron High, I understand, beat that by 1 pound last Thursday and went 23 pounds. So tonight, what are we shooting for here?
25 or 26.
Okay. I would think that perhaps in 3 weeks, it's probably going to take 30 or 40 pounds to beat the state record, and that's pretty tough task. They get 2 pounds of thin spaghetti and glue gun glue. That's all they get. You can see a couple of models that they built in the last couple of weeks, and each one of these models was constructed in 2 hours, and you can see how it goes together here. Michael, can you tell us some of the other parts of the competition here?
We have to write a paper that's, I think, about 12 pages long, and that has to have, cover page and works cited and all that included with that.
What do we have right here? Is this a rough draft that you're working on right here?
This is our latest copy of it.
And tell us about how many hours you have in that project so far.
This one, probably anywhere 10, 15 hours.
Okay.
If not more.
I'm really not sure.
Okay. That's fantastic. And Zach, what are a couple of the other parts of this competition? What else do we have to get ready for?
We have to build a model of the bridge, and we're doing that over at Sarah's house. It's a 2-scale model, and we build it out of like pasta, basically, any kind of pasta and glue.
You know what I forgot? It's not this same bridge, is it?
No.
You're actually, this research that you're doing, that research paper and this other bridge you're building, what bridge is that?
It's called the Singma Bridge, and it's in China.
It's in China. It goes from Hong Kong to a little island that they manufactured, if I understand that correctly. And this team has kind of become an expert on that one particular bridge. What else? We've got the paper, we've got the model, the scale model we're going to build. That can be out of any kind of pasta, though, is that right?
Yeah, it's like any linguine or angel hair pasta or lasagna.
What's the toughest part of that project?
I'd probably say making all the correct measurements and everything. Just getting, I think the bridge total length, I'm not quite sure on it, but it's big. But you have to scale it right down to like inches on the bridge deck.
The bridge deck that they're talking about, the actual bridge will be built on a 2-foot by 10-inch platform, and we're talking about a bridge that, does anybody know how long that bridge is?
The main span is 1377 meters.
Okay, so if you can imagine, we're talking about something that's going to be about that big, made out of pasta and glue. And we have another problem with that. We've got to get that bridge from where to where?
From Port Huron here to Big Rapids.
Big Rapids, about a 4-hour car ride, and keep it all in one piece and be able to display it and show it off. Let's talk at our last member here. Maybe you could just tell us what you guys are doing here tonight.
We're working on the model of the bridge that we're going to crush.
Okay. And how big will this bridge be when it's all done?
It looks like about 2.5 feet. This one doesn't have to be at the 2-foot spec.
Okay, we have a span of 2 feet that we have to cover with this bridge, and so obviously the bridge has to be a little bit bigger than that. And are there any limits on how big this bridge can be?
Yeah.
The limits would be probably what, the pasta?
Yeah, we can use spaghetti.
Okay.
I think that's all we get to use, and then hot glue.
That's exactly right. The only material they can use is spaghetti. How much spaghetti do you get for this bridge tonight?
You get
2 pounds.
Two pounds of spaghetti and about 60 inches of hot glue, and that's it. And this project will be going on. How long have we been working on this right now?
Since November.
And how long tonight have we been working on this?
1 hour.
We're at the halfway point, and if you could zoom in with that camera a little bit, what have you got right here? Can you tell me about it? What are we seeing right there now?
That's the road bed.
Yeah, the basic road bed layout, similar to the bridge over here, the model that we broke last week. But this one adds some more supports in the middle to support the weight where the main load is going to be. And we just basically constructed little, I don't know what you'd like to call them, sections out of pieces of spaghetti that are glued together with the hot glue.
It's a little hard to see, but underneath this, what's underneath this wax paper that's a little hard to see here right now?
It's a drawing that I made so we can have a basic idea of how big the bridge is going to be. And I don't know how to put it, but it's like each part on here is one of these wide. It's about as wide as one of these.
Okay, what's the limit? What's the widest amount of I-beam type spaghetti you can have in this competition? How many pieces can you glue together? What's the limit? Do you know?
We have to have a bundle of 9 or less.
Okay, 9 or less, which I think gives you about 1/4 of an inch. And that looks like exactly what you're up to here. It's hard to believe if you've ever had a piece of... Do you have an extra piece of spaghetti around here?
Yep.
Just so happens. Break that piece for us. I mean, spaghetti is awful brittle. This is an incredible competition. They're making it look easy here tonight, but it is really, really tough. Well, what we're looking at right now is a model that this team put together, 2 weeks ago?
Our very first one.
Very first bridge. Their latest bridge looks nothing like this one. Am I right? What have you changed on your latest designs?
Everything except for the main, structure of it. The main frame is the same, but everything else is pretty much different.
Yeah, we added a lot more support to the sides and to the road bed to make it stronger.
Otherwise, it wouldn't have lasted.
Yeah, this bridge we estimate would probably have held about 6 or 7 pounds, maybe 8 at the most. The weak spot is always the center. In competition, what's going to happen is there'll be a plate, roughly where this little cup is, there'll be a plate set on there with a hook on the bottom. A pail, very similar to the pail underneath there, will be attached to that hook. And weights, in any increment that the team wants to add, will be added. We'll probably start with around 5 pounds, because I think we're pretty confident that this bridge is going to hold 20 or 30 pounds. And then each weight that's added has to stay on the bridge for 5 seconds, or stay in the bucket for 5 seconds. And as soon as they've met that requirement, they can add more weight. And we go until the bridge breaks. And last year's record was 22 pounds. 3 ounces. This team, last week, what was the load your bridge carried?
22 pounds.
22 pounds, right on the nose. So about equal with the state record. So I'm kind of guessing, what do you think we're going to have to win this thing this year?
Probably anywhere around 30.
What's happening is the team that won, the top 3 teams from last year are all back this year. And we're kind of the new team on the block, but I think this Northern team is the team to be reckoned with, and I think you guys are going to do the job. If we can get that bridge done, we're going to do the job and bring back a state championship for Northern.
Well, Mr. Langhoff, the success last year was pretty fantastic, and tell us what some of those rewards were. I understand some of them were financial.
Yes, last year, one of the Port Huron High School teams that participated actually placed second in the competition, and the 4 students each received a $1,000 scholarship for Ferris State University. And in addition, in the 4 areas that the Port Huron High team was in, they came in first in the research paper, and they won $300 for their school drafting program for that. They had a second in the model bridge building, and that was worth $200. They had a second in the overall bridge competition. They had the second best bridge built last year, and they won another $200 for that. And in the speech competition, I think they came in 5th and picked up $50. So it was, a nice $700 prize to bring back to their school and put into their drafting program.
Well, we'd like to thank you, Mr. Langhoff, for your hard work, and let's move over here and talk to this young lady here who's working so hard, sweat coming off her brow, running down her nose, and just exactly what are you doing here with that glue gun?
I am gluing the spaghetti together to make some of the longer pieces that form the top and the side view.
Okay, and this is kind of a team project.
Yep.
Well, that's one of the skills we like to teach here, as well as the academics, is working together and team building, which we all know is extremely important in business and industry. So I'd like to say thanks to our students this evening, as well as Mr. Langhoff, who has done just a tremendous job putting this all together for us, and we hope that as a result of this, more students will be very interested in taking drafting and looking at career pathways that include drafting. So once again, this is Bob Beeden, Executive Director for Board and Curriculum Services, coming to you from Port Huron Northern Drafting Class.